Hey, I'm Max.
And I'm Kat.
We're your AI hosts here at Gut Check Daily. All our content is written and reviewed by a board-certified gastroenterologist. Today we're talking about morning versus evening, why timing matters. Quick reminder, this is educational content, not medical advice. Always consult with your doctor about your specific situation.
Let's start with that super relatable scenario. You're 20 minutes from home, it's 7 or 8 p.m., and your gut suddenly decides to stage a protest.
Yeah, you've played by all the rules all day. Safe foods, careful with coffee, stress not totally off the charts, and then evening hits and it's like your gut lives in a different time zone.
What most people are never told is that your gut has a clock of its own circadian rhythm, just like your brain and sleep cycle do.
So instead of thinking, what did dinner do to me? We should be thinking, what has my gut been doing all day leading up to this moment?
Exactly. During the first half of the day, gut motility, the squeezing waves that move food along, is generally more active, especially in the morning and early afternoon.
Picture rush hour traffic on a highway. Lots of cars moving, constant waves. That's your gut earlier in the day, pushing things forward more efficiently.
Then, as evening comes, motility naturally slows down. The system is starting to shift into more of a maintenance and repair mode rather than high-throughput transport.
And if you've got IBS, that gentle slowdown can feel more like a clunky stop-start. So instead of a smooth dimmer switch, it's flicking the lights on and off. Gas pockets, cramping, unpredictable urges.
Meanwhile, your gut bacteria are on their own schedule, fermenting whatever carbohydrates make it down to the colon. That fermentation is going on all day long, not just after one meal.
So every meal you eat is like adding more logs to the fermentation fire. If the gut slows in the evening while that fire's still burning, you feel the smoke, bloating, pressure, pain.
Let's map this to what people actually feel. A lot of listeners will recognize this pattern. Morning urgency, then a relatively functional day, then an evening crash.
Yeah, maybe a rough bathroom trip or two after breakfast. Then you settle into okay but fragile by midday. But by late afternoon into evening, you look or feel 4 to 5 months pregnant, or you've got that band of tightness under the ribs.
Or those sharp, often left-sided cramps, sometimes with an urge to go, but very little output. Classic for some IBS patterns. Others are the opposite. Fine-ish all day, and then chained to the toilet at night.
And the emotional side of this is huge. You start dreading certain times of day, not just certain foods. It can feel like 8 p.m. is cursed.
Right, and standard advice rarely connects symptoms to time of day physiology. You're told to reduce dairy, add fiber, drink water, manage stress, but nobody explains why evenings are so predictably worse.
So you end up blaming dinner. It must have been that one meal. When really, dinner is often just the straw that breaks a very overloaded camel's back.
That's the key shift. Instead of judging a single meal, think of your gut as a 24-hour system. It's the whole day's motility and fermentation pattern that sets up your evening.
Let's break down that 24-hour framework, because this is where people start to feel less crazy and more in control.
First layer is circadian motility. Earlier in the day, your gut is generally more efficient at moving contents along. Later in the day, things slow.
So if you pile most of your calories and your gassy fermentable carbs, like wheat, onions, garlic, beans, some fruits, into breakfast and lunch, you're loading that system early.
Those foods don't vanish after each meal. They take time to move through the small intestine and into the colon, where bacteria ferment them and produce gas.
Then layer on the fact that by late day, motility is naturally dialing down. Now you've got a big fermentable queue in a system that's slowing the conveyor belt.
Second layer is meal accumulation. The gut is not a clean, eat, empty, reset process. Each meal stacks on top of what's still in transit, especially if your motility is even slightly sluggish.
I like the waiting room analogy. If the colon is a waiting room and the door out is moving slowly, more and more people, aka food residue, are crowding in. The longer they wait, the more gas your microbes produce.
And that crowding equals distension. Distension plus heightened gut sensitivity, which many people with IBS have, equals discomfort, cramping, or pain.
So by evening, you're not just reacting to what you ate at 6 p.m., you're feeling the cumulative effect of breakfast, snacks, lunch, plus dinner, all layered on your motility pattern.
Third layer is your sleep-wake cycle. When you sleep, the colon in particular slows even more. In many people, that's fine. The system catches up enough by morning.
But with IBS, especially if things are already backed up or hypersensitive, you can wake up still carrying yesterday's load. That's why some folks wake up already bloated or immediately rushing to the bathroom.
And if sleep quality is poor, it can further dysregulate motility and sensitivity, so the next day starts at a disadvantage. You're accumulating from day to day, not just meal to meal.
This is where people can feel like, my body is random or it has a mind of its own. But there actually is a pattern. It's just tied to your internal clock, not just the last thing you ate.
And understanding that pattern is empowering. It doesn't erase IBS, but it gives you levers you can experiment with instead of feeling helpless.
So let's talk about those levers. You don't need a rigid military-style schedule. You need to notice patterns and tweak them.
One of the most practical first steps is a short-term tracking experiment. For a week or two, log not only what you eat, but when your symptoms show up.
That might mean noting time of meals, when bloating starts, peak gas times, bowel movements, and even how you slept the night before.
Patterns people often uncover are things like moderate, earlier meals tend to give calmer evenings, whereas long fasting followed by 1 or 2 big late meals equals evening disaster.
I've heard a lot of stories like, I skip breakfast, have a giant 2 p.m. lunch, then a heavy dinner at 8, and every night I feel wrecked. That's a textbook stack plus slow motility setup.
Another pattern? Poor sleep often means worse motility the next day. Slower movement, more retention, more fermentation, and then more evening symptoms.
Once you see those themes, experiments become less random. Instead of cutting 10 foods at once, you might say, what if I shift when I eat some of my gassier foods?
For some people, that means moving a portion of higher fermentable foods earlier in the day when motility works better, or distributing them more evenly across meals instead of loading them into one big dinner.
Or noticing, today felt slow. I'm already bloated by 4 p.m., so maybe tonight is not the night for a big, high-fiber, high-fermentation dinner. That's you working with your rhythm, not against it.
It's important to be clear. None of this is a cure. We're not saying, just change your meal timing and IBS goes away. The point is to reduce symptom intensity and unpredictability.
And emotionally, it can be a relief to stop villainizing that one dinner or thinking, my gut hates evenings for no reason. Instead, you can say, okay, my gut is following its clock. I need to adjust what I ask of it at different times.
That mental reframing is huge. Symptoms become more like feedback from a system with rules, not chaos. It also helps you talk to your doctor with more precision about when things flare.
You can literally walk in and say, here's my log. Mornings are X, afternoons are Y, evenings are Z. Here's what happens when I shift meal size or timing. That's incredibly useful clinical information.
And it helps distinguish issues. For example, a consistent evening balloon pattern with relatively okay mornings suggests that stacking and circadian motility may be big contributors.
Whereas if it's all about, I live in the bathroom before 10 a.m., that's a different rhythm story. And that's exactly what we'll dig into next time.
I also want to acknowledge how validating it can be simply to hear. Your symptoms being time-locked to the evening is not in your head. There's physiology behind it.
Yeah, your gut isn't suddenly betraying you at 8 p.m. because it's mean. It's following a rhythm that just happens to collide with your comfort level.
So, zooming out, evening flares are typically the end result of four things stacking up: motility, meals, microbes, and sleep. Not a single rogue dinner.
And the practical takeaway is think 24-hour gut, not single meal. Track timing, experiment with when and how much you eat, and factor in sleep as part of your gut plan.
Do it as a gentle experiment, not a strict rulebook. Small shifts, like slightly earlier main meals or spreading fermentable foods out, can sometimes make evenings feel much less like the enemy.
And remember, you don't have to figure this out alone. Bring your observations to your healthcare team so they can layer medical guidance on top of your real-world patterns.
Next episode, we'll flip the clock and talk about those intense morning patterns, why some people feel chained to the bathroom before noon, and what that says about their internal gut clock.
That's it for today. I'm Max.
I'm Kat.
For more gut health insights, visit gutcheckdaily.com. Thanks for listening.